The feed was already live when Commander Elias Rourke stepped into the war room. Across the main holoscreen, the grand broadcast spire of Verelion Prime loomed, a black needle piercing clouds heavy with green lightning. At its summit, a circular platform glowed under alien floodlights, every detail sharpened by the Dominion's obsession with theatrical precision. In the center, a young human girl stood shackled in a column of pale light. Her wrists were bound by living metal restraints that pulsed faintly, like veins under skin. 17, murmured Lieutenant Vega beside him. Name's Lyra Hale. Diplomatic aide. Picked up 3 weeks ago. Rourke kept his eyes on the screen. Charges? Vega's jaw tightened. Espionage. Total fabrication. She was there on a student exchange. They wanted someone visible. Someone human. Around them, the war room's other officers shifted uncomfortably. The execution was being broadcast to every world in Dominion space, and to every human settlement beyond. A chittering voice rolled from the speakers as the camera angle widened. The Lord Executor himself emerged from the shadows, virile Carthes, towering, his obsidian chitin catching the floodlights in sharp flashes. His multifaceted eyes gleamed like shards of wet glass. In the Dominion, the translator rendered his words into crisp galactic standard. There is no higher crime than defiance. Today, we remind our subjects what becomes of those who forget their place. The alien's claws clicked against the dais as he circled Lyra, slow and deliberate. She kept her head high, chin tilted slightly toward the camera. Fear, Carthes continued, is the root of order. Without it, chaos blooms. Without it, the weak forget who holds the blade. Rourke could feel the shift in the room, quiet fury, helplessness. He'd seen it before, in soldiers forced to watch from behind a wall while civilians burned. From the adjacent chamber, muffled voices spilled through the half-open door. The Coalition Council was in emergency session, their debate feeding live to the war room. Cannot escalate without consensus. Dominion fleet strength is unmatched. We are not prepared to sacrifice our worlds for one life. Rourke turned to Vega. They've already voted, haven't they? Vega didn't answer. The flicker in her eyes was enough. On screen, Carthes raised one claw. The camera angle shifted again, pulling back to reveal the execution device, a vertical plane of shimmering, pale energy. It hummed at the edge of hearing, the kind of sound that made the teeth ache. Lyra's gaze found the lens again. She wasn't crying. Wasn't pleading. The pale light washed out the details of her face, but her eyes, steady, unblinking, cut through the transmission like a blade. Carthes spoke once more, low and final. Let the galaxy watch. The blade fell in a single, fluid downward sweep of energy. The restraints collapsed, empty. The light dimmed. The feed cut to the Dominion crest, a black, angular sigil over blood red. Silence gripped the war room. No one moved. Even the background hum of the ventilation seemed to vanish. They timed it, Vega said quietly, for maximum audience share. Rourke turned away from the screen. No. They timed it for us. The council chamber door hissed open. A human delegate stepped in, avoiding eye contact. Commander, the decision is final. No retaliation. The risk of war. We're already at war. Rourke cut in, his voice low but sharp enough to still the room. The only difference is whether we admit it before we lose. Commander, the delegate began again. This is not. Rourke walked past him, heading for the secure comms alcove. Vega. With me. Inside the alcove, lights dimmed to deep blue, he keyed in a triple-coded authorization. A recessed panel slid open, revealing a row of encrypted comm nodes. This protocol hasn't been greenlit in 2 decades, Vega said, watching him. That's why it's still useful. Rourke pulled a compact headset over one ear. Black Lance. The system's AI pinged 3 times before opening the link. 8 faces appeared in miniature hollow projections, men and women in combat gear, scattered across different corners of human space. Rourke spoke without preamble. Target, Verelion Prime. Objective, High Command decapitation strike. Time frame, immediate. Immediate? One voice, Lieutenant Cade, sounded half disbelieving, half eager. Sir, that's not a discussion. Rourke cut him off. They wanted to make an example of us. They just did. We're going to make one back. A pause. Then, one by one, the operatives nodded. I'll send coordinates, Rourke said. Gear for infiltration and CQB. Assume planetary lockdown within 10 minutes of contact. Cade smirked faintly. Guess we're not waiting on a declaration, huh? We just got one, Rourke said. The channel closed. The alcove lights brightened again, casting sharp lines across his face. Vega studied him. You know the odds. Yes. They're not good. They're worse if we wait. He started toward the hangar lifts. Prep Black Lance 1. We move in 4 hours. As they walked, the holoscreens in the corridor replayed the last moments of the broadcast on silent loop, the pale blade falling, the empty restraints collapsing to the floor. Most officers looked away as they passed. Rourke didn't. He kept his eyes on it until the image reset. This isn't about her anymore, he said, almost to himself. It's about the next one. Vega didn't reply. She didn't need to. By the time they reached the lift, the first encrypted orders had already reached every corner of his team's far-flung locations. Across human space, men and women were locking weapons, sealing armor, boarding ships under false flight plans. The Dominion wanted the galaxy to learn what happened when humans defied them. By the time this was over, the galaxy would learn something else entirely. The hangar bay beneath Atlas Mountain was a place most of the Earth Defense Coalition didn't even know existed. Its vaulted chambers stretched in shadowed arcs of steel and reinforced glass, lit only by the cold blue of maintenance drones hovering over sleek black corvettes. Black Lance 1 waited at the far end, its hull matte and lightless, every line built to absorb and scatter sensor pings. Rourke walked the length of the bay, Vega at his side, boots ringing on the deck plates. How many crews have run this op in simulation? She asked. 3, he said. 2 didn't make it past orbit. And the third? They weren't up against Verilion Prime. Near the boarding ramp, 8 figures stood in a loose semicircle. Each was geared for a different kind of war, Cade with his heavy breaching rig, Yara in a skin-tight infiltration suit threaded with optical disruption lines, Malik carrying the compact drone controller slung like a second skin. They didn't salute. Black Lance wasn't about formality. You've seen the feed, Rourke said without preamble. You know why we're here. This isn't revenge. This is removal. We cut the head off the Dominion tonight, and we do it in a way the entire galaxy sees. Cade grinned faintly. So, another quiet op. A ripple of dry chuckles. Rourke let it pass, then keyed the ramp control. The corvette's hatch hissed open. We launch in 12. Once we hit Dominion space, there's no backup, no fallback. We're either ghosts or we're corpses. They filed aboard. Transit. The corvette cleared the underground bay with barely a vibration, sliding into the hidden launch tunnel that opened onto the upper atmosphere. At altitude, its stealth drives engaged, an almost imperceptible shiver as the hull's nanofilaments bent radar and grav scans around it. From the cockpit, the sky fell away into black. Vega slid into the co-pilot's seat. Vector locked for micro-jumps. 3 short hops to the moon of Verilion Prime, then in system. Any chatter? Rourke asked. Dominion traffic normal. They don't know we're coming. Let's keep it that way. The first micro-jump hit with the sensation of being pulled forward and down at the same time. Stars smeared, then snapped back into focus. Cade's voice came from the rear compartment. Weapons hot, ammo counted. We've got 30 minutes before we're on station. The moon approach. By the time the third jump completed, Verilion Prime's pale green crescent dominated the forward viewport. Its atmosphere shimmered faintly from the orbiting defense grid, dozens of station-linked emitters throwing a mesh of energy across the planet. The corvette drifted in on minimal power, broadcasting stolen Dominion transponder codes. Rourke leaned forward. Controls pinging us. Response? Vega answered in a perfect imitation of the insected click pattern, her translator masking any human tone. Maintenance Courier Theta 7, inbound with priority clearance. Seconds ticked. A control drone pivoted in their direction. Then the traffic light over the comms shifted from red to green. They bought it, Vega said. For now, Rourke replied. Landing. They set down in a maintenance bay beneath the grand broadcast spire, an enormous vertical shaft whose inner walls glistened with resin and bioluminescent markings. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and something faintly acidic. A pair of Dominion dockhands, narrow-shouldered Kareth workers, glanced at them but didn't question the arrival. Humans were rare here, but in courier colors and masks, they passed unnoticed. Yara checked her visor feed. Cameras are on a 15-second rotation. We move between sweeps. Infiltration. They moved as a single unit, each step measured. Resin-lined corridors gave way to polished black chitin plating as they climbed higher in the spire. Overhead, distant voices clicked and scraped against the walls. At the second checkpoint, a Kareth guard blocked their way. His multifaceted eyes swept the group. Authorization, his translator barked. Vega stepped forward, holding up a fabricated code shard. Courier Theta 7. Direct transfer to the high chamber. The guard's antennae twitched. Humans do not operate direct transfers. She tilted her head. They do when the cargo isn't for you. For a beat, the guard froze, unsure if he'd been insulted. Then, with a low hiss, he stepped aside. Malik muttered as they passed. Still breathing. The dais. The ceremonial floor was just as it had looked on the broadcast, circular, raised, open to the storm-lit skyline. The execution blade still stood, a vertical shimmer in the air. Dominion guards ringed the outer edge. Yara marked each one silently on her visor HUD. Rourke gave the signal. The first guard fell without a sound, a blade through the thorax. The second had time to half-turn before Cade's suppressed round shattered his carapace. In under 20 seconds, the ring was broken. Clear, Yara said. The alarm. From the corridor above, a mechanical chime rolled through the structure, not loud, but constant. Vega's eyes snapped to her scanner. They've flagged our transponder as counterfeit. Defense grids moving to lockdown. How long? Rourke asked. 6 minutes. Then we're early, he said. Let's finish this. The ascent. They moved for the blast doors to the high command chamber. Heat shimmered faintly from the seams, internal shields cycling on. Cade stepped forward, planted his breaching rig, and thumbed the trigger. The shape charge blew inward with surgical precision, cutting a man-sized opening in the armored doors. Beyond lay the chamber, wide, circular, lined with jagged black columns. The Dominion's ruling council sat at a crescent table, their faces a mix of shock and disbelief. Rourke stepped through first, weapon steady. Gentlemen, he said, we're here to discuss term limits. Closing beat. In the moment before the first shot, time seemed to still. Outside, Verelion Prime's defense grid powered up, its glow reflecting off the storm clouds. Inside, the ruling class of the galaxy watched the impossible walk through their door. Rourke's team fanned out, rifles sweeping the arc of alien leaders. Broadcast uplinks in the far corner, Vega murmured. Then let's give the galaxy something worth watching, Rourke replied. The chamber's alarms screamed as the firefight began. The control room on Defiance was silent except for the crisp tapping of keyboards and the low hum of fusion reactors in standby. No one spoke. No one needed to. Every face was locked on the central display, a wide hollow of the imperial capital, Enceris, rotating slowly in the void. Elias Vance leaned forward, forearms braced on the console, eyes unblinking. His voice, when it came, was steady. Status on the payloads? Payloads 1 through 9 are confirmed in position, replied Lieutenant Kara Ivers, her tone clipped, disciplined. 10th is waiting for orbital clearance over Sector 9. Clear it, Elias said. We don't have time to play nice with their traffic control. Across the room, a comms officer cut into the channel. Sir, Imperial net chatter spiking. They've realized the feeds are ours now. Of course they had. For the last 46 minutes, Elias had turned their own planet-wide comm grid into a weapon, broadcasting the execution replay of Anna Carter on every channel, every frequency, every screen in the Empire. No edits. No propaganda filters. Just the raw truth, over and over. The girl's last words, tell them we're not afraid, had burned into every Imperial citizen's mind like a brand. Elias didn't watch the feed anymore. He didn't need to. He was watching the effect. Reports flooded in, riots breaking out in 24 districts, the palace guard stretched to breaking point, civil broadcast channels hijacked by angry civilians. General, Kara said quietly, if we launch now, the entire capital will be in chaos before the first strike lands. Good, Elias replied. That's the point. The Imperial Grand Hall was a storm of voices, the Emperor's ministers shouting over each other in panic. Lord Commander Sareth, the man responsible for Anna's death, stood stone-faced at the center. You have minutes to fix this, the Emperor snarled. Shut down the broadcasts. Silence the riots. I don't care what it takes. My Emperor, Sareth said evenly. The source is external. They've piggybacked the relay network, I suspect defiance. Vance is behind this. The Emperor's lips curled. Then end it. Now. But even as the order was given, the massive palace doors shook under the weight of an angry crowd pressing inward. The sound was distant, muffled by thick stone, but it was getting louder. On defiance, the final timer ticked to 0. Payloads are green, Kara reported. Awaiting your mark. Elias looked to the massive hollow display one last time. Encerus glowed beneath them, a jewel of steel and glass. A jewel built on slavery, subjugation, and cruelty. Anna had died here, but she wasn't the reason he was doing this. She was the last reason. Mark. 10 objects, invisible to the naked eye, fell from orbit like whispers. They weren't conventional weapons. No plasma, no warheads. They were precision pulse EMP charges, tuned to shut down every powered system in the capital without destroying the city itself. Lights across the hollow winked out in waves. The planetary's shield collapsed. Military comms died mid-transmission. Entire defense grids went dark. Impact confirmed, Kara said, a trace of disbelief in her voice. The Empire's blind. Elias turned toward the tactical table, where 3 assault vectors glowed bright red. Send in the strike wings. Target only military and government complexes. Civilians get clear lanes. Yes, sir. In the Grand Hall, the chandeliers flickered and died. For the first time in generations, Encerus was plunged into darkness. Ministers froze. Sareth drew his sidearm, scanning the room. The Emperor's voice, stripped of its usual confidence, cracked. What's happening? Sareth didn't answer. He knew. And from the sound outside, the doors splintering, the roar of the crowd, the city knew too. The strike wings screamed through the powerless capital, their engines the only sound in a city without light. Precision strikes tore through military compounds, shredding barracks and command posts while leaving homes untouched. From the streets, civilians watched the destruction of the institutions that had ruled them for centuries. Some cheered. Some fell to their knees in disbelief. On defiance, Elias tracked every vector. Keep your fire clean, he told the strike leaders. This is not about slaughter. It's about removal. Sareth fought his way through the palace corridors, rallying pockets of guards. Every hallway was filled with panicked servants fleeing into the blackness. The outer gates had been breached, civilians surged in like a tidal wave. He reached the Emperor's personal chamber just as the door exploded inward. Elias stepped through the smoke. His armor bore the marks of battle, but his voice was calm. Sareth. The Lord Commander raised his weapon, but Elias was faster. A stun pulse slammed into his chest, dropping him without a sound. Elias turned his gaze to the Emperor. You executed an unarmed girl on a broadcast watched by billions. 47 minutes later, your empire fell. Remember that. The Emperor tried to speak, but no words came. Elias didn't wait. He activated the beacon on his wrist. Seconds later, a transport roared into the courtyard, its side hatch open. Back on Defiance, Kara received the final report. All targets neutralized. No civilian casualties reported. The capital is in full revolt. Imperial Command has ceased transmissions. Elias walked onto the bridge, removing his helmet. His face was set in iron. Send the message to all fleets, the Empire is over. Their armies can surrender or be dismantled. No negotiations. Kara hesitated. And Anna? Elias's jaw tightened. Anna's name will be the first in the register of the free. Every world we liberate will know who she was, and why we fought. In the streets of Enceris, the people tore down Imperial banners, their fabric trampled into the dust. Children painted the walls with symbols of the rebellion. The name Anna Carter spread like fire, whispered from mouth to mouth, until it was a shout rising into the night. Above, Defiance turned away from the planet, its work done. 47 minutes? That was all it had taken. The Empire would never recover.